Today we start off focusing on the steel sector. Yes, there's been a lot of talk about diversifying the economy, what we need to do, and then we all know about Ajaokuta Steel Complex and then the National Iron Ore Mining Company. Well, only recently there was one, I think it was called, let me see, renegotiated concession, where the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, the Vice President, officials of the Justice Ministry were there to sign an agreement. So we're focusing on that one and see how that impacts on what we intend to do. We're joined this morning by Natasha Akpoti, a lawyer and a social entrepreneur. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Well,
when that agreement was signed, you had many who thought, oh, finally, we've been able to get this offer back. And so they just asked, does that then mean that having signed that agreement, it puts us back on course to getting the steel sector up and running, does it?
In a way, it does. But then, from my own perspective, like many other Nigerians, we would look at this agreement as taking a step forward and 2 steps backwards. So in a way, it's actually a retrogressive agreement. On the bright side, we could say that for once, in 8 years, Ajaokuta is free. That means it's off the hostile agreement that it has been entrapped in for the past 8 years by the Indians. That means it now belongs to the federal government, and the federal government can actually invest or seek investors as it wishes so. But on the retrogressive part, I think it's quite distasteful, because this is the same company which late President Yar'Adua actually terminated the concession. So I wonder why Nigeria would actually re-engage them on the same grounds, whereby we have clear proof that there was fraud and mismanagement of resources. So are we expecting something different? I mean, we all know that leopards really change their spots, but I'm quite hopeful, and I pray that somehow the minister will be able to convince us that he has been able to negotiate a better package for Nigeria.
One would have thought that before renegotiating, there would be a clear plan. I mean, it's for everyone to see, okay. But before the 8 years and night, the Ajaokuta Steel Complex was as you say, taken hostage. There were the years where it just was there and owned by the federal government and not being productive. What do you think we should be looking for now that the federal government's collected it back? Look for more investors? What kind of investors will we be looking at?
I would like to start with the first valid point you made, whereby you said you were expecting that by now there will be a business plan. This government is one which speaks about transparency, due diligence, accountability. And here we have Nigeria signing up to Global Infrastructure Nigeria Limited, Itape, without a business plan. I mean, they are just about now starting to draft a business plan for the iron ore company. And what if the business plan that they are going to present in 105 days is not okay with us, with our needs, with our diversification needs? What happens then? We just found ourselves caught up between the devil and the deep blue sea, and we thought, oh, the only way out now is to just save Ajaokuta. But we are forgetting that Ajaokuta is nothing without Itape, and Itape is actually the meat. Ajaokuta was created because of Itape. So if Nigeria is now given the most important part, the battery of the life of Nigeria's iron and steel company, in the hands of people who worldwide are renowned fraudulent and bank defaulters, what do we expect? So it's a whole lot, but I would think one of the ways we could avert this is if we ask and demand clear transparency over the terms and conditions which were entered into this concession, because right now it's tight, like nobody actually have seen it. But I have been privy to the previous concession agreement, which was supposed to have been signed in by the previous President Jonathan, and
with the same
with the same
global
company. Yes, they have been for the past 8 years. It was known that ever since they took Nigeria to arbitration, the said quite tight on the agreement on Ajaokuta and Itakpe, and said the only way they could relinquish hold on Ajaokuta is if they were settled. They actually put forward $1 billion request, but was turned down, and later on they dropped it down to $250 million. So right now, like I said, I have seen the agreement, and I'm told that it's not much different from what was signed now. And in that agreement, they actually stated that they would want the Nigerian government to rehabilitate Itakpe back to the state it was. And that is going to cost a lot of millions of dollars. You know, and then that the federal government should also clear all the debts. Now, that means pay the workers that were working at that time. That's about 8-point-something billion naira that is required by the federal government to settle debt. So there's a whole lot much more that Nigerians do not know that have been tied into this agreement. And we would appeal that the minister actually speaks up. I mean, if you are trying to tie Nigeria's destiny into a particular foreign company, we need to know what we're signing our destinies to.
Because, I mean, one would like to imagine that the ministry, because if all of them were present at the VP, the minister, justice officials, they would have taken into cognizance all of these factors that you have highlighted and then negotiate the best deal for the country. You don't think that that's the case here?
I cannot clearly say whether that's the best case, but what I know on the face of it is it was clearly a weak negotiation. Nigeria should not have succumbed to that, because at the end of the day, what was the essence of wasting 8 years if we know we're still going to go back to the same people, you know? And when you ask whether the terms were negotiated in favor of Nigeria, I would like to see that the Indians are actually held responsible for the economic loss of the 8 years. Let me explain this. Okay, Ajaokuta and Itakpe was just held down for 8 years, right? And now we're giving back to them on the same terms. Who is going to pay for the deteriorated?
You keep saying same terms.
Same terms.
Not sure what the
Most of the time I have seen the terms that they were asking for. The only difference is the concession is the concessionary fee which they're going to pay Nigeria, which is raised from 3% to 4%. I mean, after giving them the whole resources, after the second year of operation, they're going to start paying Nigeria 4% after royalty and taxes. That's it. So it's practically the same. But like I said, it will be very interesting for the minister to speak forward, to let them be transparent, let everybody know what we're trying. It's our common resource. Such agreement should not be held to the detriment of Nigerians in darkness. But what I was saying about what I would like to see in the agreement is the Indians or somebody should be held accountable for dragging Nigeria into this mess in the first place. There is no accountability. People are silent on that. And there is somebody. It's just not a ghost. Secondly, I would like to see who is going to be held accountable for the deteriorated state. Because Ajaokuta and Itakpe, they were stopped there. We all know technology deteriorates with age. Who is going to pay for that? The economic loss. If Ajaokuta was, sorry, please. If Ajaokuta and Itakpe were producing steel for the 8 years that it was tied down, that means Nigeria has lost billions of naira every year.
Doesn't this agreement take care of all of those?
No, I saw the previous one, which was supposed to be signed in 2011. In 2004, it wasn't, and I tell you, it's not much different. Nobody is being held accountable for the economic loss and the deterioration of assets.
But it was an arbitration, wasn't it?
Even if it's an arbitration, our lawyers, I expected Nigerian lawyers, our SANs, should have stood up to ask. Even before that, I'm surprised why, like I say, I'm a lawyer myself, but probably I take part of the blame. Why didn't we, the so-called human rights activists, stand up to put a counterclaim to the Indians? It's wrong. It's wrong for Nigerians to sit back and watch a foreign company hold our natural resource hostage for 8 years. No country would have done this.
Let me bring Mark would like to get a question in. Mark.
Oh, thank you, Chamberlain. I mean, you have talked about how this is one step forward and 2 steps backwards. And you've already said it, you're a lawyer yourself. What would you rather happened in arbitration?
If I had taken that up myself, if I had the light bulb earlier on, what I would have done was to countersue, like on behalf of Nigerians, on behalf of the host communities, on behalf of the country, would have taken a case of economic crimes, suing the Indians for economic crimes, asset stripping and all that. That's one thing that would have happened. Because, you know, Nigerians do not understand, or many Nigerians do not know that there's a particular right they have over their national assets, which supersedes every international agreement. There's a United Nations Declaration which vests on the which vests in the indigenous people of Nigeria the right to enjoy their natural resource, and no international law whatsoever can deprive a Nigerian for that. And Nigerians have been deprived for 8 years that. But like I say, people do not read. It's a major flaw. People do not read broadly to understand the rights that they have. And they forget that the freedom that we all seek are written in books. If we had known more, I just discovered that this 3 months ago, that there was actually such a privilege. I was with a certain professor who heads the United Nations Committee on International Business Law. And he said, why are Nigerians quiet over this? How could you sit down? How do you have lawyers and they actually folded their arms to watch Nigeria's asset being held hostage by arbitration? No country would have done that, and not even a prominent Indian company.